and welcome. Today through this video what I'm going to be doing is making a crock pot leek and potato soup. So as you can see, I have everything I need out here on my stove. What is needed is bacon. I don't know, depends on how much you like bacon, 6, 8 slices. You're going to need leek. For a bigger family, maybe 2 leeks. And then you're going to need 1 container of chicken broth, 2 cups of water. You're going to need 2 cups of half and half cream, a half a cup of flour. As you can see, the flour is here, cream, the leek, the chicken broth. You're also going to, and the bacon, sorry. We're going to fry this bacon up, and I'm just going to then make it into crumbles or cut them into slices. I'll cut the bacon up into little pieces. I'll put it in my frying pan. I will cook that. I'm going to chop up my leek, and then once my bacon's kind of starting to cook there, I'm going to put my leeks in that bacon to cook, and then drain off the fat. You're going to need potatoes. I have here just some small yellow potatoes, baking potatoes, and I'm just gonna cut them into small chunks. You'll need about 5 or 6 medium size. You will need 1 cup of carrots, 1 cup of celery. If you don't like leeks, that's okay. You can make your potato soup with just a cooking onion, 1 whole cooking onion. And whether you want to use your bacon as a garnish or whether you want to actually put it in with your soup, that's your choice. You're going to need salt and pepper to taste. Like I said, a half a cup of flour. You're going to need a half a teaspoon of dill weed, also called anise. If everybody must know about dill and dill herbs, and if you look at the picture, that's what dill looks like when it's growing. But this is dill weed seed. You're going to need about a teaspoon of garlic salt. If you want to use garlic, use about 1 clove of garlic instead of the 1 teaspoon of garlic powder or salt. And oh, we don't need this. And then you're going to, like I said, need the 2 cups of water. You're going to need your, sorry, let me move this here. You're going to need your crock pot, a peeler, tongs for your bacon, a frying pan as well. You're going to need a knife for chopping your vegetables and also cutting your bacon, a stirring spoon, like I said, the crock pot. So these are the things you'll need to make this crock pot leek and potato soup. Because the bacon's going to be fried first, and the same with the leek with the bacon to give it some of that flavor, you would say that it doesn't take too long for this to cook in a crock pot the way something else, another dish may take to cook, because potatoes, they don't take long to cook, and neither do the carrots. I would say on low, maybe 5-6 hours. What you'll need to do is you're going to, whether you want to wash and peel your potatoes, peel the skin off, or keep the skin on. I like to keep my skin on, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually wash and chop them into small chunks. I'm going to peel and wash my carrots, and I'm going to chop them into small chunks. The same with my celery. I'm just going to wash and cut into small chunks. With the leek, what we'll be doing is we will be cutting the leek and leaving just a part of the green stem on, but mainly using the white stalk of the leek. We're going to cut that off, cut the leek in half lengthwise, and you're going to rinse it really well, just like heads of lettuce like romaine, leaf lettuce, Boston lettuce, they will have, sometimes they will have that earth, that dirt that will be inside the leaves. So we're going to actually make sure we cut it in half. We're going to rinse that off. We will then chop that leek, both halves of it, and we're going to put it in a strainer, a colander strainer, and then we're going to rinse it out again and make sure all that earthy dirt and soil is off. And then once I have, like I said, my bacon sliced up and in the pan and going, I'm going to add the leeks in to soften it up and give some of that onion flavor. For those of you who do not know, leeks are part of the onion family. They actually grow wild here in Canada as well. If you're ever traveling out in the country near any waters, swamps and things like that, you will smell leeks from time to time. And these are the things we're going to need to make our crock pot leek and potato soup with bacon. The first thing that I'm going to do for this crock pot leek and potato soup is I'm going to prepare my leek, like I said earlier. So I'm just going to cut off most of the green parts. The great thing with leek is leek can last a while in your fridge. It doesn't go bad quickly. So I've got the top part cut and just cutting it. Oh, it smells like onions. So what I'm going to do now is lengthwise take my knife and carefully cut the leek in half lengthwise. I should say before we actually cook, it's always important that you wash your hands first. Take the time to wash your hands. So now I have them cut in half lengthwise. I'm not needing the same amount of ingredients as you because I am a single person. So my ingredients I'm cutting down to half. So instead of using 1 to 2 leeks, I'm actually taking the one and I'm going to use half a leek. But for yourself, depending on the size of your crock pot and the amount of soup you want to make, that's going to depend on you. If you have a larger family, larger crock pot, you could take 1 to 2 leeks, depending on how much leeks you enjoy, if you do like leeks. If you don't, then it's okay. Just use 1 whole onion or half an onion. Again, depending on the size of your crock pot, that makes the difference. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to wash this leek up. So as you can see, it comes in layers like this. And then I am going to cut it in half again, and I'm just going to dice it up, and then I'm going to put it in my strainer or colander, whatever one you have, and I'm going to rinse them out again. Okay, I've rinsed my leek. Like I said earlier in this video, there will be times where you may, just like with lettuce, because it's layered like this, you want to make sure that all of any soil that's still maybe in there, you want rinsed out, washed out. So I'm going to take my leek and I'm going to cut it in half again. And I'm just going to cut my leek, and try to do it like that. Depends on you and the size of chunks of the leek you want. I got here probably like a 1/4 inch slices I've got going here. Now, only some of the green pieces you want, not all of them. I do enjoy leeks myself. I love onions and garlic and all those different rooty vegetables. And there we go. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to put them in my strainer here, and then I'm going to just rinse them out one more time. Once I'm done this, I'm going to start on my bacon. I'm going to take the time to cook my bacon, and then I'm going to add in the leeks just to soften them up a bit and get that onion flavor in with the bacon. It's always important too, when you're working with meats and vegetables and fruits, that you have 2 different cutting boards. One for your meats and one for your fruits and vegetables. And with your meats, I always wash all my meats except for ground beef or hamburger. I always rinse them first before I cook them. So I'm just going to take the time to rinse these out. Okay, they've been rinsed. I didn't use the very end, just like an onion, that most of them will have a core, and you don't want to use those parts. I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to use a plastic cutting board. I wouldn't use a wooden chopping block or a board for your meats. It's better with the plastic. It's easier to get all of that stuff off and wash it. So I'm just going to take my scissors. I always have a pair of scissors here in my kitchen. And I'm just going to take the time to cut my bacon in half. Like I said, it's just me and my home, so I don't need as many ingredients for my foods. Now I've got my bacon. Of course, it's not frozen. It's thawed. I'm going to take the bacon and I'm going to cut, depending on how much bacon you like. If you want to use only 6, 4, whatever, you could use it just as a topping when your soup is done in a bowl, or you can put those pieces in your actual soup, your crock pot. I would leave it at the end of your cooking time, just like your half and half cream. The reason for half and half cream with the flour is that's kind of like your thickening agent, your paste. And in the last 30 minutes of your soup cooking, of the cooking time, you're going to mix up your 2 cups of half and half cream, which is a lot thicker than milk, and then your half a cup of flour, and you're going to pour that in the last 30 minutes. And I would add your bacon in then and just keep stirring occasionally until it gets thicker. If you're lactose intolerant, then you don't have to use cream. You can just use the water and the chicken broth. It won't get creamy and thick. It won't be a creamy, thick soup. It will be a more liquid soup. But then again, if you're lactose intolerant, it's good, best not to have that unless you have lactose-free milk or something like that, or soy milk. And if you're looking for gluten-free, instead of using all-purpose unbleached flour, you can always use a different flour, whether you want to use a coconut flour, a rice flour, again, only if you're looking to thicken it up. So I have my bacon cut here in small pieces. I got my frying pan here, and I'm going to take my frying pan. I'm going to turn on my fan, and then I'm turning my burner on high, and then I'm going to take my bacon. I'm going to rinse it, and then I'm going to put it in the frying pan. There we go. Just break it up, and then I'm going to take the time to wash my hands because I've been dealing with this meat, and I want to make sure that I wash my hands well so I don't have any of that raw meat product on my hands, because I'm going to be now chopping up my other vegetables and getting everything ready for the pot, and I want to do that safely. Okay, so I have my bacon crisping up here. I'm going to take this now, my bacon, and I'm just going to put it in a little container here, a bowl, with some paper towel on it, and that's just to absorb some of that grease. You don't want your leek and potato soup to be oily, greasy. In another container, a metal one, or you can dump out some of that extra grease. And I'm putting that back on, and as you can it still has the rendering of that fat from that bacon, which is going to have that bacon flavor. And I'm just going to put in my leeks that I've already cleaned and prepared for the frying pan. So I'm just going to take the time and I'm just going to soften these leeks, cook them in the frying pan that I cooked my bacon in to get some of that flavor and a little bit of that bacon fat in there. I'm just going to keep tossing them around until the leeks are softened. When we're making this, we don't need to cook this where it's completely soft because it's going into the crock pot to have more time to cook. You want to just soften it up so there's still a little bit of a crisp or crunch to your leeks. Okay, so now my leeks have softened up. I'm going to take them off, turn my burner off, and then I'm going on to the next step, which I said while this is cooking, you will have your carrots peeled, washed, and chopped into small chunks. You're going to have your celery washed and chopped into small chunks. You're going to get your potatoes ready, whether you want to peel your potatoes and wash them and cut them into small chunks, or if you want to leave the skin on. Like I said, I prefer to leave the skin on. So I'm just going to wash those down and I'm going to chop them into chunks. And everything will then be ready to go into the crock pot except for the bacon and your half and half cream and flour mixture. With your slow cooker, also known as crock pot, you will have two parts to it, whether it's a metal one or whether you have like the heavier ones. There's always an insert pot, the sleeve, and then you have the shell. And that's what makes crock pot cooking safe and convenient. So what you're going to do is you're going to take out the bowl part, the inner sleeve, and you're going to have that put aside, and you're going to chop your vegetables up and everything, and you're going to put this in your crock pot. Okay, so I have my vegetables ready here for chopping. Just a little side note. When you have carrots and celery, what you can do with your carrots and celery is you can get all your carrots, peel them, cut the ends off, cut them in any way you want to, wash them, and put them in a mason jar or another glass jar with some water, and just put the lid on tightly and put that in your fridge. And when you're ready to have a carrot to cook with or just to eat raw, you can just pull them out that jar you have them in, take them out, and they're still crisp and fresh. That helps to keep your carrots lasting longer in your fridge. And you can do the same thing with your celery. That helps to keep them crisp and last longer, and it helps to save space in your fridge. So I'm just going to cut the ends of my washed celery, and the same with my carrots. Now, for you, if you have a bigger crock pot and a larger family to feed, you can add, it's 1 cup of celery and 1 cup of carrots. If you want more, you can add more. It depends again how big it is, your pot, and how many people you have to feed. If you want to double that, you can double it. But it's just me, like I said. So instead of 1 cup of carrots, I'm going to have a half a cup of carrots. So I've got my carrots cut in half. And then I'm just going to take them and I'm just going to dice them, chop them up along the way. I'm going to cut them in smaller chunks. You can cut them in bigger if you want. It's your choice. Remember, when you're cutting, and your recipe asks for meat, like I said earlier, use a different chopping block for your meat if you're going to cut it up, and not the same ones for your fruits and vegetables. Cross-contamination you do not want, because then you will not feel well through that. I'm going to just turn my fan off here, sorry. So much noise, and I hope you heard all of that because I'm a little bit further away. So I'm just taking these carrots and I'm gonna, there we go. I'm gonna put them in my crock pot, and I'm gonna do the same with my celery. Myself, I'm not a huge celery fan, so sometimes what I'll use as celery seed, but you know, there's a difference. So I'm going to cut this in half. When you're chopping, using a knife, always remember to take your fingers and you tuck them in and use this kind of like as your guide. It's the safest way to do that. Not that I'm no culinary expert, but I've just learned that through many years of being a home cook. That's what I am, a home cook. I love potato soup, potato leek. I actually found this other recipe for potato leek soup, which had saffron in it. But saffron is very expensive. And it's not easy to come by. Okay, there we go. Now, like I said, if you want to peel your potatoes, you're welcome to. This is about a medium-sized potato. So you could take 5, 6 medium-sized potatoes, and if you want to leave the peel on, you can or not. It's up to you. I have smaller potatoes here, so I'm actually just going to use some of my small potatoes, and like I said, reducing my amounts because it's just me. So there's the size of the potatoes. So I'm just going to take my time to do that with my potatoes here. And once I have this all done, I'm then going to add my leeks that I've already prepared into the pot as well. Then I'm going to add my herb, then my dill weed, aneth, my garlic powder, salt and pepper to taste, and then I'm going to add my water, my chicken broth. Stir that all well together, mix it well together, and then put on my pot on low. And then you leave it for the day. And I'm putting my bacon in with my potatoes. Carrots. Sorry, not my bacon, sorry, my leeks. Sorry about that. Taking my leeks and I'm putting them in with my potatoes and my carrots and my celery. I'm just going to mix them up right now. And there you go. Just blend them well, mix them all together. And then after this, I'm going to then add my dill weed, my salt, my pepper, my garlic. I have garlic powder. You can use garlic powder, garlic salt, 1 clove of garlic, whatever you choose, whatever you have available in your kitchen. I don't think it's really expensive to make this kind of soup. You can get a bunch of leeks for like $4 and they last a long time. You don't need a lot of them usually when you're making a recipe with them. Or you just use a cooking onion. I think most people might have cooking onions, carrots and celery and potatoes, which are very affordable. So this is a very cost-effective or efficient for the budget. If you don't want to add the bacon, you don't have to. If the half and half cream is something you don't want to add, you can just use water instead and flour, or just not any of them. So it's the cream that would make it a little bit more expensive, and dill weed can be a little bit more expensive, so it's up to you. So you put as much salt and pepper as you want. That's your choice. If you find that when you go to put in your bacon at the end, if you choose to, and your flour and half cream, and you taste it and you find you want more salt and pepper, you could just add more in then. So I'm going to take my dill weed and my garlic powder. So I need my measuring spoons. And I'm just going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. If you have a larger pot, like I said, you're going to need more. I believe it's 1 teaspoon. I can add a 1/2, but this is the amount I'm going to add. Because again, I'm a single person, so I don't need or require as much in my recipes, my dishes that I make. If you have leftovers too, you can always just freeze them in a container, a bag for freezing. So I'm going to take a 1/4, for me I'm taking a 1/4 teaspoon of my dill weed. I'm just putting it in there. For the larger pot, maybe a 1/2 teaspoon of dill weed. And again, I'm just going to mix that up. Now, larger crock pot, you're going to add in the full container of chicken broth. For myself, it's going to be a 1/2. And you would add 2 cups of water. For myself, I'm going to add 1 cup of water. Then I'm going to put it in my crock pot and let it cook. So I have them all mixed well together. There you go. Smells good already. Shake up your chicken broth. Open it. And you would use the whole container. Like I said, for myself, I'm not. I'm using 1/2 of it. Chicken broth. There we go. My 1 cup of water, you may need the 2. Again, size matters, how many people you're feeding. So my 1 cup of water added to this. There we go. Mix it up well together. Take my crock pot. So what I'm doing, like I said, I have an Instapot. If you have a crock pot, which is also known as slow cooker, that's the same thing. With my crock pot, I'm going to put this in here. And I'm going to put it on slow cook, which is the crock pot section. You're using an Instapot. When you're using the slow cooker, you want your knob here to be on venting. So I've mixed everything together. Like I said, the last 30 minutes of cooking time, you're going to, which is like I said, 6 to 7, maybe 5 to 6 hours, won't take too long. On low, you're going to, the last 30 minutes, you're going to take your lid of your pot, open it up. You're going to add in your flour and your milk, cream, 1/2 cream, but you mix that up first. Put that in a bowl, whisk that all together, and pour that in, stirring in your pot with your vegetables. And then you can add your bacon in then too if you want to put it, or you can leave it just to add it as a garnish to the top. You can add cheese with it, sour cream, whatever you want. Like I said, do this in the morning, and by the time dinner's ready, you'll have yourself a nice, delicious leek and potato soup. I'm just going to put it in here. It's ready. I got my lid on. I'm going to plug it in, put my slow cooker on low, and I'm going to have this cooking all day while I'm out doing my errands for everybody. Thank you.